So the Biden administration just banned Russian ammunition and firearms. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think that Biden shouldn't be telling you what firearms and ammunition you can have, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to give a shout out to one of the main supporters of this channel, and that is USCCA. Through your membership, you get training, education, and self-defense liability protection. So if you carry a firearm, I highly recommend you take a look into USCCA, and I'll put a link to them down in the details section. I also want to let you know that this content is powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition, so head on over to joinfpc.org to help support the Second Amendment cause. Thank you again, Firearms Policy Coalition, for supporting this channel. So yesterday, news broke that the Biden administration will be implementing policies that prevent Russian firearms and ammunition from coming into the US. They are implementing stricter importation laws that prevent these items from being imported into the US. Now, for a lot of us, this is concerning because ammunition prices have already skyrocketed. Ammunition's been hard to find. And also this has all been because of the unrest and things that have happened just socially in the US. Well, now you're going to have some of the cheapest ammunition get taken off the market, and it's going to be even harder to find ammunition. So greatly concerning to a lot of us, especially in the two-way world, when we heard that the Biden administration was going to be banning the importation of Russian ammunition. And if you're not aware of what that means some of the most common ammunition on the market, some of the most common cheap ammunition on the market, like Tula and Wolf, are no longer going to be imported into the US under this new policy. Now, I wanted to read to you guys the description of these sanctions, and I'll put a link to these down in the details section if you want to read them for yourself. But it says, pursuant to the Chemical and Biological Weapons Control and Warfare Elimination Act of 1991, the United States will impose a second round of sanctions on the Russian Federation over its use of the Novichok nerve agent in the August 2020 poisoning of Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny. I'm not sure if I'm getting those names right, Russian names, I'm sorry. New sanctions imposed today under the CBW Act include, and these are the two things that these new sanctions are seeking to implement. 1, restrictions on the permanent imports of certain Russian firearms. New and pending permit applications for the permanent importation of firearms and ammunition manufactured or located in Russia will be subject to a policy of denial. So that is the main one that's concerning everybody, because these permits for importation of these ammunition firearms will be just simply subject to policy denials. They will not be issuing permits to import these items into the US anymore. The second one is additional Department of Commerce export restrictions on nuclear and missile related goods and technology pursuant to the Export Control Reform Act of 2018. Not as relevant here when we're talking about ammunition. It goes on to state that these sanctions also include a continuation of measures imposed on March 2nd, 2021, as well as in 2018 and 2019 in response to the poisoning of Sergei Skripal and his daughter, along with the waivers associated with these sanctions. So again, just saying that they're going to be implementing even more sanctions on Russia. But the main one that's got a lot of us concerned in the two-way world, in the gun world, are those restrictions on the importation of ammunition and Russian firearms as well. Now, the sanctions go on to set a time frame for when they will be in place. It says, these latest sanctions on Russia pursuant to the CBW Act will take effect upon the publication of a Federal Register notice expected on September 7th of 2021, and they will remain in place for a minimum of 12 months. So going to start September 7th and at least stay in place for 12 months. It goes on to state that these sanctions can only be lifted after a 12-month period if the executive branch determines and certifies to Congress that Russia has met several conditions described in the CBW Act. These conditions include 1, providing reliable assurances that it will not use chemical weapons in violation of international law. 2, it is not making preparations to use chemical weapons in the future. 3, it is willing to allow international inspections to verify those assurances. And 4, it is making restitution to Mr. Navalny. Now, as you can see, they have a timeline for at least 12 months, and then they're saying that there is the potential to lift after those 12 months if all these conditions are met. But when you really look at those conditions, it is very unlikely that these sanctions will ever be left, because one of those that I guarantee Russia is just not going to do is allow inspections. Russia is not going to allow the US to do inspections in their country to make sure that they are meeting these conditions. It's just not going to happen. So once these sanctions are in place, which they are going to be in place, it is going to be very unlikely that they are ever lifted, unless maybe the president changes and then himself, whatever new president or herself, I guess, decides to lift those bans. Now, why is this concerning? And I kind of already talked about this a little bit. This is going to lead to even more ammunition shortages and even greater price increase on ammunition because the most affordable and most widely used type of cheap ammo comes out of Russia. Like I said, the Tula and Wolves are probably some of those that you guys are very familiar with. The ammunition we currently have on the market is likely going to be bought up because it's going to be cheap right now. And once that's gone, and once that kind of gap is not going to be filled by Russia, it's going to be dependent on US manufacturers to fill that. It's going to take a while. We already saw them have issues ramp up with the increase in demand over the last couple of years with all the COVID issues. So we've seen American manufacturers be able to fill that gap, but it just takes a while. And again, we already have ammunition shortages. It's kind of leveled off a little bit, but I can foresee that this is going to just increase even more with this new news that there's going to be a ban on ammunition coming out of Russia. And this is unfortunate because this is not going to affect Russia at all. This is only going to affect gun owners in the US. Russia is just going to sell their firearms and ammunition to other countries like the Middle East, or maybe those individuals who just took over Afghanistan. They're going to need ammunition as well for all those new guns that the US just handed over to them. So maybe Russia is just going to now shift all that ammunition to other countries like in Afghanistan. In the meantime, those gun owners in the US are going to be struggling to find the cheap ammunition that we've been so reliant on for a long time. It's simply because the Biden administration, I guess, wants to levy some sort of sanction on Russia, but really that's not really going to do anything to Russia. They know that Russia's never going to comply with these sanctions and the requirements and conditions that they're going to place on these sanctions. Simply, this is just a way to reduce firearms and ammunition in the US, and that is really what the Biden administration is all after. They're not after all this other stuff and the rationales that they put behind why they're issuing these sanctions. They really just want to decrease ammunition and firearms in the US, and this is just a backdoor way for them to do that. So I just want to put this on your guys' radar because this was breaking news and it's very concerning to a lot of us in the two-way and gun world. And this is, again, a sanction that is going to restrict the availability of ammunition in the US by restricting what can come in from Russia into the US, primarily being the cheapest ammunition that we have in the US market. Now, I'm not recommending that you guys go out and purchase all the ammunition, the Tula, Wolf, all that stuff that you can find. Be smart about it. Don't increase to the supply demands or anything like that. If you're good on your supplies, just be considerate of all those other two-way advocates, gun owners out there, new gun owners, because again, we've had a huge rise in new gun owners who are still struggling to find ammunition. So if your supplies are good, just be considerate of other individuals. But again, I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you feel that you need to get ammunition right now and you're concerned about this, just be smart about it. But I wanted to put this on your guys' radar because it is going to be something that's going to be concerning, and we'll have to see how this plays out going forward with the whole ammunition shortage and supply issues that we've had in the US because of COVID, riots, and all that. Now with this sanction, it could only increase to that is my anticipation. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Algore's rhythm. It signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos, in this type of two-way news, and then it pushes it to more people. Thank you so much to everybody who's liked, commented, and subscribed on my videos on this channel. You are definitely helping this channel and these videos to reach more people. So thank you so much for doing that. I try to comment back to as many of you as I can when you comment down below. So thank you so much for doing that. And if you don't have a comment in mind, just comment down below that you're commenting to fuel the algorithm or fuel Algore's rhythm. And also, if you're a new subscriber or someone who's kind of been watching my channel for a while and you're recently just decided to subscribe, go ahead and comment down below that you're a new subscriber and I will make sure I comment back to you. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars. This nation will be maintained by armed scholars.